Hello and welcome to Parental Mentals. I'm Marcus.
Hello, I'm Claire.
And we're back. It's been a while, but we've got all sorts on the agenda. So much to catch up on, which we'll just talk about as we go, I guess, really.
Yeah, like we always do, and we'll see where it goes.
Indeed. So talk to me, what's on the agenda for today?
So on the agenda, this was my idea, finding more peace, the art of letting go.
The art of letting go. Okay.
You've always been really good at this. Well, I'm talking in our relationship.
Oh, in our relationship specifically.
We can touch on it more generally, but I do feel like you've been all really good at this. You've always been able to kind of have a disagreement, even a full-blown argument, and then just get over it. And I hold on to things and it takes me a long time to like let go of it. But recently, I don't know what's happened, but I've found it and I've sort of been able to do it a lot more.
What do you think has enabled you to find, before we go on to that, I guess, what does not letting go look like? So for people that are like, what are they on about? Like, what does it mean? What do you mean not letting go? So let's say we hypothetically, we've had an argument and you hold on to that. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I guess specifically between me and you, that's what I'm referring to. But I think more just like holding on to feelings. You know, when you just like, I know I'm really guilty of it. I feel feelings and then I internalize them and like I ruminate on them and I hold on to them and I don't stop. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't sort of just let it go and move through me and move on and get to a different chapter. I can't, that's how it's almost like I feel like a physical thing. You know, I visualize it mentally, physically holding on in my body, or I just can't let go of stuff. But I don't know why. I just really I feel like I've been able to do that more recently. And
this is a problem, I think, for
life-changing.
couples all over the world is, you know, maybe they've been together a long time and you're frustrated in life, but you'll take it out maybe more on your partner because you love them and you can, and you know they're going to forgive you. But also there's an element of some people do get a little bit stagnated and they start to get annoyed by the simple things and then hold on to those things, don't they, as well?
Yeah, but I think you've hit on something important there also, in that maybe it's other things. So maybe it's not that argument that the subject you were arguing about. Maybe it is just other things in life that you're holding on to that you're stressed about, or that you have had a conversation with work at somebody and it's annoyed you and you take that home. And I think there's so many things that it could be about, but I think that's important that what you just hit on there. But what I want to ask you is how you've been able to do it this whole time.
Someone said to me before we got married, happy wife, happy life. And it was a really important thing for me I brushed it off, but I took it on board because actually the point is like, where are we going to end up? Where are we trying to go? We're always trying to be on the same team so we can handle things in life with the kids, with the bills, with, you know, day-to-day life. And when we're not on the same side, it's a lot harder. So it's like, how important is it to hang on to this thing that I'm annoyed about? Be annoyed in the moment, feel it, let it go. Because actually, if you hang on to it and you hold it against your partner, then it just only causes more friction. And the other thing is, in the past, like, we'd offer olive branches out to the other one and they get pushed back. And then that just...
You're saying where you mean me.
It prolongs it, doesn't it? Like, and I think recently that's been the difference, is that you've started to accept the olive branch. You've accepted the fact that I'm trying to look inward on myself and go, I made a mistake there. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I miss that, and sometimes I need you to prompt me and go, look, this is what you did. And I go, oh, okay. And I think that's what a lot of couples probably don't have, is that level of communication and acceptance of responsibility for your part in it. To just be direct, I think that was probably one of your hardest things to overcome, is that accepting that even if it was only 20%, you know, accepting your 20% of the contribution. For me, I'd just go, right, I'm 100%. I'm 100% of the problem. If I just accept that I'm 100% of the problem, anything you give me is a bonus.
Then she might be able to move on.
Yeah, well, you can move on, but also, like, if I take 100% of the responsibility, you tend to go, yeah, well, I shouldn't have done that. Whereas if I came in going, I did this, but you did that, then you'd be like,
that didn't work for me.
No, so for me, it was just like, well, just be 100%, even if it is or it isn't, even if I'm only 20%, just be 100%. And that tends to have helped me as well, to just let it go, to be like, okay, I contributed, I'm sorry for that.
It opens up a better conversation. But do you know what I've decided is my new threshold? And I did say this to you the other day, but it's enabled me to change my mindset, even in the moments when I'm still full of emotion. So if I'm full of emotion and I'm mad at you, or we've fallen out about something, I keep going back to the thought, is it a divorceable offence? Has he done something terrible that means that I'm going to divorce him? The answer is always no.
Yeah.
So therefore...
Although sometimes your reaction wouldn't necessarily agree
I'm
with
not talking about my reactions. I am talking about my thought processes in the moment that help me? The answer is no. No, he hasn't done something that's a divorceable offence. Therefore, what is holding on to this and feeling all of these feelings actually doing? And the answer to that is always causing me or us monumental levels of stress. A sleepless night, for example.
Nights.
Life is too short, and we're coming out with all of the cliches, but actually that threshold has just been the turning point for me.
And the thing is, if you don't recognize what we're talking about right now and you allow it to keep happening over and over and over and over again, that builds resentment in a relationship. And we've been there.
We have been there.
We've resented each other for not feeling like heard or understood or forgiven quick enough for something that we feel is, smaller than the other one. And the thing is, what you've also got to remember is that everyone's problem is a different size to the other one. People react in different ways to different things. So in your relationship, you've got to try to kind of be agile and understand that each other has different needs and different problems and different things that they get wound up by, and to just try to be, lenient's the wrong word, but kind to each other and accepting and validating of each other's differences. Because I think, especially being neurodivergent, people talk about neurodivergent, people not having empathy, but the problem is a lot of that empathy is just not understanding. And if you can help each other understand, this is why I'm feeling this way, often, especially being neurodivergent, you can then relate to it and go, okay, I haven't experienced that, but I can understand why that's frustrating for you and hard. And fundamentally, the most important thing at the moment about finding peace is being able to communicate, but not over communicate and not over, we have to keep going over this and over this. It's like, right, okay, we've spoken about it, whether we agree or not, let's just move on.
Yeah, that is another technique. That's an important technique. So as much as I'm talking about this threshold, I think another thing in terms of our behaviour that we've changed is that we don't over talk about things anymore. We used to sit down sort of every evening and have this kind of, I'm at one end of the sofa, you're at the other end of the sofa, and nothing is being achieved. We're talking about it too much and we're going over. I think it's important, again, something that you hit on is to feel understood, though. I've realised how important that is in a relationship, to feel. And I think we're doing that better also, as well as letting things go. I think I'm able to sort of say to you, I understand why you were mad about that. And it just sort of validates it for you and makes you feel, she does understand. So she is taking on board kind of my point, and then vice versa, you're doing that for me. So that feeling understood thing is also really important, I think.
100%. I think what's really important to try and get rid of, the word to try and get rid of in a relationship when you're, maybe struggling a little bit, is the word but. Because it's like, but, and the second you say but, it's like, well, everything you've just said there has just lost value.
You're taking it away. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for us to validate each other is trying to remove that word but, and that's where that accepting 100% responsibility for your part eradicates that but. Because the second you're like, well, it's 60-40, you have to say the but, you were 40%, and it's like, no, just be like, I was 100%. It's like, I was 100%. Oh, we were both 100%. We all move on. And again, that's a bit cliche, but that's been a breakthrough for us. I think there is always going to be a but every now and again, but the less buts there are in a relationship, the better.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting when you're talking.
Well, you pause then. Were you visualising buts? There's a lot of buts there.
No, you're talking about the numbers and the percentage of understanding. So obviously that was important to you. I think what I've said in terms of what I'm doing now is maybe making you feel more understood and making you feel validated. So it's making that number thing more at peace. You're able to go, she doesn't just think it's 100% me. She gets my point.
I think the numbers thing is more of a neurodivergent thing for me. Like, I break everything down into numbers. It's like with Fleur, when I'm telling her where to stand in the goal, I'm like 60-40. So then she knows she leaves.
Is that what that means? I've never understood what that means. I heard you saying
40% of the goal behind her, 60% of the goal in front of her. So on a cross, I'm like 60-40. If it's a free kick, it's 70-30, and it's just a visual number thing for me, but equally, because of how I visualize it, yes, it was a hard thing for me to get past. Is that, well, there's this percentage that she's not doing. And, in my mind, sometimes you'd be like 70% and I'm going, I'll just take that 30 and extend it to 100. But that practice works for me in terms of understanding how you could come back from the feelings that you were having. If I just came in and went, it's all me, whether it was or it wasn't, you could then be a lot more rational about the situation and maybe look at your part a bit more. And that habit for me was then like, right, okay, well, this works, you know, and actually what damage was it doing to me to just accept full responsibility? Like, it wasn't doing any, when I was like, well, I know what part I've played. I have played a part. I'm accepting my responsibility. It doesn't matter whether I come in going, oh, well, I did this, but it actually matters that I come in and go, I did this. And you went, okay. And that was the big thing. You know, I think men struggle to do that.
Like you say, you coming in and saying that enables me to feel, the main feeling that enables me to feel is to feel understood. So it makes me feel like you understand my view of what you've done wrong. I don't tend to think of it in those numbers, but then I am able to open up and go, oh, okay, well, yeah, I understand where you were coming from.
So fundamentally, as a couple, the most important way to find peace, to summarize, is to just let it go. In the words of Elsa. Is it Elsa from Frozen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for us, yeah. I think that was our particular problem that we've been able to
Yeah, but I think with the amount of relationships we've had between us and the amount of things we've hung on to in relationships, you know, like what you just said, is it a divorceable offence? No. Am I just hanging on to this unnecessarily because there's other things attached to this, you know, like, so it is a generalised thing. I wouldn't even say it is just us. I think for people moving forward, whether it's in a relationship, a friendship, whether it's with your family, you've got to accept people for their limitations. You've got to think about, how much is this going to impact me in a year's time? Am I going to think about this in 6 weeks' time, 6 months' time? No. Okay, let's forget about it.
I think that's also what I wanted to go on to say, is that it's not even just about relationships, is it? It's like we feel like we've had to do that a lot over the last couple of years, is to sort of learn to not hold on to things and not let things affect us to such a degree. Like, it's not, you don't have to forget about things, I don't think, to move on or forgive people. I think you can just make a choice to move on. There are lots of things that people have said or done to me that I don't get over or forgive them for. And actually I've learned that that's okay.
But you've removed them from your life potentially,
that I might have made then subsequent decisions that have meant that I've enabled that moving on scenario to happen. It's about having your boundaries and the perspective within yourself and the knowledge within yourself to go, actually, this doesn't serve me at the moment. I am just going to move on. I am going to let it go and let it move on from my life. But that doesn't mean just forget about it and forgive everybody.
No. But that's the point in a relationship. You know, like, it's much harder to move on if it isn't forgivable. Do you know what I mean? So like,
maybe those boundaries are different there.
Yeah, so much of our confrontations or problems are personality clashes. You know, it's very rarely because of something neither of us has actually done. It's like a disagreement that escalates, like earlier when we were talking about migraines, and that nearly escalated into an argument. And like, I was like, let's not argue about that. I'm not arguing. It's like, okay. You know, but like, it doesn't take much for us to escalate. Oh
my God, yeah, that's a really good example of where things have gone horrifically wrong before for us over just the most simple thing. And you're right, it is a personality difference. It's the way that we communicate. The communication style.
Yeah.
Your communication style is very different to my communication style. And therefore it can always look, and I think outside, people looking in, if they were in this household at the same time as those things going on, a lot of our communication style could look like an argument. It looks like, you know, because we're quite disagreeable. We're not people pleasing.
Because it is an argument though. It might look like an argument because it is what it is. Like, we immediately go to, if we disagree, it's like, right, well, I'm sticking my flag in this.
Yeah, and
you're like, I'm sticking my flag in this. And even if the other one halfway through clocks, the other one's probably wrong, the likelihood of the one backing down is, you know, it's a trait of ours that isn't great. You know, like, we could both, and I think I am better at maybe coming away and going, yeah, I'm wrong there. Like, William was like, you were wrong. And I'm like, yo, I'm wrong. You know, like, I've got better at that in life. Because,
you've got better. You weren't good at that originally.
No, but I've spent my whole life with people telling me I'm a know-it-all who doesn't ever admit they're wrong. So now, in order to prove them wrong, I have to admit I'm wrong. So,
but
like,
you can't help the righteous side of you coming out in the beginning.
100%.
And you've learned to backtrack a little bit, or to just, I think you've learned to like let it go in your mind and go, oh, actually this argument doesn't matter enough for me to 100%. Keep going.
But you taught me that, because I remember I'd been arguing with William. You're like, why are you arguing with a 9-year-old boy about this, that and the other? And I'm like, that's a good point.
You're entering the playground.
What am I doing? Why am I like trying to prove him wrong? And so, like, that helps, being a dad actually makes me go, come on, man, get a grip. Like, why am I even entertaining this argument? The story of the donkey and the tiger and, never argue with the donkey. That's the one for another day. But basically, don't argue with the donkey. Just don't do that. And actually letting that go, or just we're realizing you are the donkey sometimes, realizing that you need to
sometimes
just hold your hand up and go, okay, I got that one wrong. That's actually very peaceful. That's actually very
it's the whole is the same subject, isn't
it?
Letting
That's what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
That finding peace of being, I don't have to prove myself, or okay, I can be wrong, because when you're wrong, you learn. Actually, you then can become right by adopting the truth. So, in admitting you are wrong, that is such a strong place to be. And in later life, I've now learned that as a man, to go, yeah, I'm wrong, is powerful, because people go, oh, well, he's not a massive knobhead, which most people have spent a lot of my life thinking about me.
And I apologise. I think we've probably touched on this before, but if you're letting things go and you're not arguing and you're not, it's a really open mindset, and you're teaching, you're modelling the correct behaviours, going back to being a parent in those situations. We've had some really beautiful moments with the children recently where both you and I have realised that maybe we've dealt with a situation slightly incorrectly or not how we would have wanted to in that moment. And we've had lovely conversations with the children. It opens up such a space for sort of learning about human behaviour, and just be like, actually, mum and dad are also human. We get things wrong and we are really sorry. We probably annoyed you in that moment and we really didn't mean to, and that was not how it. And those are such wonderful conversations.
Years ago, you'd be like, I'll go and apologise to them. And in my head, you'd be like, parents don't apologise to their children. It's just being a parent. And like the power in that of going up to your kids and allowing them to feel peaceful and not like, oh my God, mum and dad, because the thing is that admitting you are wrong, again, it's the same thing, saying to kids, I got that wrong, you might have done this, however, I was not correct in my reaction, it wasn't equal to what you'd done, and therefore I just want you to know that I'm having a bad day, I've struggled, it's not okay, but I am a human being. And like that's teaching them really healthy coping strategies with emotions that are big. Like everyone has big emotions, and it's okay, providing you validate and acknowledge, where it's coming from, you soothe it. But most importantly, if you've inflicted it onto somebody else, if you put your emotion on someone else, you go and check that they're okay and that you've not damaged them too much. I say too much because it's, it's almost impossible not to kind of cause pain to people when you are over emotional or reactive, like I am, and maybe we are. But it's really important to let kids know that especially we've got neurodivergent kids who are very emotional, and we want them to know that it is okay and it is safe to be emotional, and also it's okay to afterwards say sorry, and that people will forgive you, and that people will move on, people will let it go, and we can all be peaceful.
Yeah, I think you're teaching them a really important lesson, to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong, to get things wrong, to make mistakes. And I've always been really sort of accepting and forgiving of the children. I feel like it can be quite damaging when you hear people talk about, oh, words can't be taken back, and I sort of agree in so many ways, because you remember what people have said, and we know that within our relationship, if we shout at each other, it hurts and you don't forget those phrases. But also, if you're taught continually, like you have taught me in this relationship, that we say things that we don't mean, you can accept that it was just a mistake, and that it was words that they didn't mean, therefore you don't need to hold on to them. Again, it links to letting go. One of the children can shout at me and say something really horrible, and I know that they're just dysregulated and they didn't mean it, so I can let it go. And they also need to know that they can make that mistake and someone will love them enough to accept it.
And also, I think it's really important that we're teaching them to then go and apologize, and like that's what we do, because I think most people don't necessarily remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
So if you can very quickly try to undo that feeling, then it will have less damage on them as a child. If they sit with that and go to sleep with that, and that becomes a core memory. Whereas if you go and you go, I'm so sorry, and you cuddle them, and this is what happened. It's not about just saying sorry. It's about explaining where that came from and why it's not them, why it wasn't their fault. Because actually, unfortunately, kids don't necessarily understand, succinct things, but they also don't want to be given a monologue. So you have to be it's complicated. Being a parent's hard, but you have to go in, you have to make them feel valid, or their feelings, what's the word? You need to make them feel like they are not to blame, basically.
Yeah, and reparation can happen.
And however that looks, and however you get that, you have to find that dynamic with your kids. Like, Fleur feels to blame quite a lot, and we have to kind of just validate where that's coming from, try to help her understand it, but make sure that she knows that's not the case. And she does listen to us, because actually she trusts that it's coming from a place of sincerity and experience, as opposed to just trying to dust over it.
Yeah, and I think we're modelling that behaviour of reparation as well, because they see us disagree about something.
Yeah.
We don't like shout or argue in front of them, but we demonstrate that we might be annoyed with each other, or that we disagree with something.
They get the vibe.
They could understand the vibe. Children pick up on everything, but we will then openly repair that with each other in front of them. So, or separately, if you've then taken them out, you'd be like, it's all cool. We've given mummy her space. She really needed a rest right now. I annoyed her, and I've taken you out to make up for it.
Mummy just needed some space.
Yeah. Mummy's like dysregulated, and this is what I've done to help. Or vice versa. Like, dad needs to go to the allotment. Dad needs to go and just, go for a little walk, whatever it is. But we're modelling that behaviour, I think, by you don't need to cover everything up from them, as long as you explain to them what's happening in a healthy way.
Another thing brings it right around to the topic of this podcast, though, is about finding peace. What you've just spoken about there as well is recognising when the other one needs a break. Actually, that's a very powerful thing, to feel seen. The other person taking the kids and just being like, I'm just going to nip out, not making a big deal out of it, but just giving you that time enables you to decompress.
Yeah.
And to just not have a kid in your ear going, mummy, 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 daddy, 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 mummy, daddy, and that just that break, even if it's just for an hour or two, like actually enables you to find peace. And it's about, you've constantly got to be vigilant of each other's needs to enable one another to find that peace.
Yeah, because it looks different to everybody. Actually, that was another thing that I wanted to touch on. It's like my piece is disappearing upstairs into my safe place of our bedroom and reading a book. It's just it's my favourite activity to do in the world. Your favourite activity will look different to mine. And it's like, what is peaceful to you? What is helping you let go of things that you just, it might be meditation to somebody else. It might be, or running. Both of us enjoy that. But
there can be many things.
Be other things.
It can be many things. Like for us, we love walking around, quite cliche things, getting out into nature. It's about finding a series of things that enable you to just bring your baseline down. And that is what peace, if your baseline is high, you can't be at peace.
No.
Like I've spent so much.
Or let things go.
Yeah. Or let things go or move on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do smoke. That does help me to, alleviate a lot of those things when I don't have the coping strategies in place sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you can't always go for an hour walk in nature, can you?
No, exactly. So rolling a little one skinner and going out and having that does enable me to just go, okay, I'm back in the room. I can come back in. I can be rational. I can be, good for the kids, good for you, good for everybody else. And there's no harm in, whether it's having a glass of wine, whatever it is, that sometimes you have to have these things that aren't just, oh, well, I've got an hour, I can go and do this. It's like, right, I've got 20 minutes. I need to take the edge off.
I think different if you don't have a family, neurodivergent family, lots of high stress things happen in your life. You could probably more easily find really healthy coping mechanisms. Not that
we're bitter. We're not bitter that we can't do that.
No, I'm not bitter at all. I just think it's probably easier to find those things and do those things if you aren't so busy.
Of course it is.
Stress.
But again, a lot of that is in a lack of motivation, and a lot of that, and actually discipline is the highest form of self-love. So, actually, even with our family and our kids, we force ourselves to try to do a bit of exercise at least once or twice a week, even though that's not enough. Like, it's just, you have to be disciplined, and all of this peace that we're speaking about now. They're like, oh, how have you been doing that? It's like, it's been years and years and years of me trying to work out how I find peace in myself. You know, like not getting involved in politics too much on the internet, because that just dysregulates me and makes me very unpeaceful, and it makes me more reactive to you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like recognizing triggers in your life that make you less peaceful. You know, prevention is the best cure. So if you are looking at these things and going, oh, do you know what? I'm starting to feel a bit stressed. I'm going to take myself to the shed. I'm just going to take the edge off before I'm like too far gone. And then everyone's like, oh, just go to the shed, you know. Like that's the thing. It's like just trying to get ahead of things is really important. And for us, you know, I think we're a lot more communicative now to say, are you all right? Well, I try to ask you a lot more if you're all right, not whether you respond with the truth all the time yet, but you're getting better at that. And I think it's about check in with each other. You got to check in with each other more.
Yeah, I think you have hit on something important to talk about, is like not just this is what we've managed to achieve or we've found or we've got to the stage. It's like how, yeah, you've talked about those techniques that we have used, like making sure that we give each other the space to exercise, give each other the space to have our own time to ourselves or to pursue interests that we want. There's all sorts of things that have meant that we've reached a more peaceful place and are able to let things go, you know, in our relationship or in our wider life more easily. I think it's an entire life change of trying to de-stress and trying to recognize when you need to regulate yourself. Like for me, I think I genuinely would go and go and go and go and never stop being a mum, and my caring responsibilities are just, they take over my brain, don't they? And I'm unable to come out of that and just be like, oh God, what do I need? And then I recognized within myself where I was getting to a stage where I was like, no one's thinking of me. Or I'm saying to the children like, mummy needs this, or, you know, and like those are not phrases that I would want to be saying to them. It's my responsibility to look after myself, and I need to model that behavior. A couple of years ago, I started to run and I started to do yoga, and I realized, oh my goodness, I was not modeling looking after myself in any way, shape or form. How can I find that peace? For some crazy unknown reason, because those caring responsibilities were so forefront in my mind, I managed to not overspill into them, I think, for the most part. But I realized I wasn't showing them that we look after ourselves at all.
No, and it's hard, and don't get us wrong, like we appreciate like going out and running and doing yoga isn't a possibility for a lot of people, but you know, we're quite lucky that we can do that, and we are fully taking advantage of that. And look, you know, I've put a lot of weight on lately, and I've got out of that habit, and it's really easy to actually fall off that setting a good example ladder, you know,
yeah, 100%.
You know, and as much as it's like,
it's the ideal, it's not mean you can reach that every time.
And at times we've done brilliant with it, and at times we haven't, you know, and as much as like, you know, Claire looks amazing, and it's like, oh, you might be thinking, oh yeah, well, it's easy for you. Like we still fail miserably to do that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So and become frazzled and forget that we've not looked after. Summer holidays, for example, it always happens to us over the summer holidays. We get to the end at the start of September and we realise we are absolutely frazzled. We're shadows of ourselves, completely burnt out because we've not put ourselves first at all. We made that mistake this year.
Yeah. So, you know, I just don't want you to think we're necessarily, because we're not being righteous about it. Like that's the ideal, and we do try our best, and we are lucky enough sometimes to get on a good run and excuse the pun, like we do go for runs together, and you know, we take that time. Yeah, it is a bit vomit inducing, but we you know, we've chosen a life where we don't work full time, and we've chosen quite a cheap house and cheap life, so we can, you know, again, talk about peace. We've not put ourselves under too much strain. We could have bought a more expensive house. We've got a very modest house, and it means when all the mortgage rates went up, we weren't hit too hard, and that enables us not to have to both work 5 days a week, and we can be there for our neurodivergent kids, and we appreciate that isn't everyone's circumstance. But I'd implore you to try to find a way of, especially for finding peace, finding a way where your life works for you, you don't work for your life, because there's so many people, especially in Britain at the moment, the way the current climate is, with how expensive everything is, you know, we're all just being a slave to the man. And as much as that sounds like a bit of a conspiracy cliche, like it is what's happening. And we're very lucky that we have found peace in recent years because we have adapted our life to suit our needs and our children's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many subjects that feed into what we were originally sort of talking about even letting go within our relationship, I think there's so much we could talk about within that subject, isn't it? Yeah, I agree with what you said there. We have been able to financially free ourselves from pressure and stress, because that would just tip us over the edge, I think.
Well, it did.
I think
used to.
Yeah, it did used to. We were in a more expensive house before. Actually, that's wild.
Yeah.
More expensive house, really, really lovely area. So it was so much smaller. We were squished in and we were paying more money, and we made different decisions this time, didn't we? Which enabled us to just have some space to breathe and
and the
find
irony
more peace in our lives.
And the irony making that choice is we've ended up in an area, it's a council estate, but you know what? The community, our kids are loved by everyone in the area. If you can hear the dog, I do apologise. He keeps heavy snoring back there. But we've moved to an area that has worked for us, and like it was genuinely a gamble. We were like, oh, we don't know what, but you know, we got a bit of a bigger house than what we had in a very different area, and this area is so much better for our kids than the posher area.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was the one that was really upset and worried and
yeah, borderline snobby. But now you're not. And like, what a beautiful thing to have experienced in the last few years. Like this time has flown by living here. We love living here. And as much as we could do with an extra room for the kids, you know, like actually this area is brilliant, and it has enabled us to find peace. So it's about making the right decisions for you and your family. It's really important that you don't sort of stick to something because you're like, oh, well, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. As if it's overworking you and it's putting pressure between you two to have no peace and it's destroying your marriage. Can you downsize? Can you make your life a little bit cheaper? Can you take the pressure off yourself? And I appreciate for some people that is also not a choice, you know.
But keeping up with the Joneses is my biggest phrase that I actually see so much of. See so much of it, and it is killing people. It's sort of just making people so stressed out because of that. It's a real lack of boundary, I think, and it letting go of boundaries.
And you were in that.
Building boundaries, sorry, that I was 100% in that. I wasn't recognising what I needed to do to be authentic to myself and what my limitations were.
But were you even aware that you were inauthentic at that time?
No.
Because that's the thing,
No.
it starts at school when everyone's getting the same trainers and the same bags and the same coats. You know, I was that idiot that wore the bright yellow madness and people were like, what's he about? And like, I'm not saying I was necessarily authentic. I was trying to be different. So it wasn't necessarily finding myself at that point, but I didn't want to be conventional and follow the norms. Whereas that happens as you get into adulthood and everyone's just keeping up with the Joneses, as you say, and it becomes your personality for a lot of people. So I don't even think people are even aware it's inauthentic. It becomes their authenticity after a while for a lot.
Yeah, I think it feels real. We talk about echo chambers quite a lot, don't we? And obviously I know we ourselves have built an echo chamber that tell us that what we're doing is right. And like,
no, so
people would say the same thing about us, but
it's impossible not to in the current social media algorithmic thing, you know.
Yeah, because we're all fed news that's relevant to us and that feeds our own views and that makes that we become, you know,
you have to play devil's advocate to yourself every now and again to try and...
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's a balance to be had there, definitely, in that keeping up with the Joneses might actually enable you in a positive way sometimes. It might be like, oh, you know, there's people coming around, we're being more social because that's the thing that everyone does with their kids, and so my house is really tidy. Fine, that's not, there's no negative in that. And also maybe you're socializing more because you feel like you have to. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just the balance of what the boundaries are that's good for you. Yeah,
and I think, you know, as I say, that keeping up with the Joneses / it starts at school, it goes through to being an adult, you know, but I think in your 30s and towards certainly your 40s for us, we start to question those things and go, well, what is right for me? Am I doing the right things? And that's more what I'm saying is like, the earlier you can ask those questions, the better you can find out what is right for you. What was, you know, is everything you're doing right now serving you as a person? Does it make your life better? If there's people in your life that don't make your life better, or there's something you're doing in your life that doesn't make your life better, i.e. it makes it harder, then can you change it, take it out, adapt, do something else and get rid of that person? Because actually life is short, as we're saying, and to find that peace, you need to make sure that everything around you is contributing to that peace and not contributing to more, what's the opposite of peace? War in your head. You know?
Yeah, I think you'll make different decisions off the back of it. We'll go back to the same question that I ask myself Is it a divorceable offence? That's
thank God.
my new threshold. I've never had that threshold, and it's because I was asking myself, well, this isn't good for me in any way, shape or form, right? So what is the boundary now that I have to put in place? Okay, that's the question I have to ask myself. Anyway, I didn't set our timer.
I've been keeping an eye on it. We're over the time, but that's okay. Okay. So look, join us again. That was probably a bit all over the place. It's been our first one for a while.
Probably. It's always a guarantee.
Yeah, I felt like we kept bringing it back to why it was relevant to finding the peace. Hit us up in the comments if
Thanks for listening.
If there's anything that helps you find peace. There might be other people that are looking for solutions as well, and ours might not have made any sense. So feel free to.
If you've got better ideas, hit us up.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.